Thank you for tuning in today to episode 80 of the Pool Chasers podcast. As always, our mission is to help educate and inspire in the form of a podcast. On this episode, we dove into Pentair's IntelliConnect. When these things first came out, we were very excited because it gave us an opportunity to automate those one pump, one filter type pools. And for us, those were some of the toughest customers to sell automation to because the larger systems may have just been out of their price range. As always, though, learning how to install a new product can be tricky, and we understand that. So we wanted to do an episode breaking down the IntelliConnect in a way that can help you get a better grasp on the product. We discuss what the IntelliConnect is designed to do, why Pentair chose to develop it, what comes in the box, what can be connected to it, and go through the Quickstart guide. We even have a great segment on setting up the wireless connection and using the app, which can sometimes be the most difficult part. We wish we had access to all of this info when we were installing them. Just a suggestion, this is an episode that you probably want to take notes for. So please enjoy this episode with Brian King and Rodney McCall of Pentair. Welcome to your go-to podcast for the pool and spa industry. My name is Tyler Rasmussen.
And my name is Greg Villafania. And this is the Pool Chasers Podcast. Thank you so much, guys, for joining us today. Can you introduce yourselves to us and our listeners?
Sure. My name is Brian King. I've been with Pentair now for 34 years. I work in the training department, put on universities and regional seminars through the cooler months of the year. And we're pretty much in a new city every week. So we do a lot of travel, see about 7,000 participants a year in those universities. But it's a lot of fun. Get to meet a lot of interesting people and hear a lot of good feedback about our products. And it actually helps our NPD department to get that feedback on our products.
Right. Thank you so much. And maybe you could share with the listeners a little bit of your background and your history. You're just sharing some really cool stuff that, you've been with the company for, 35 years?
34 years. But before I was with Pentair, actually started in the pool industry selling creepy crawlies door to door.
Door to door.
Door to door down in Florida, Fort Lauderdale, Florida.
Yeah, that's pretty wild. How'd you like that?
It was nerve-wracking at first, but had a couple of mentors that I worked with that made it very easy. And it was a lot of fun. You were outside most of the day and hanging around pools and visiting with customers. It was actually a really cool experience.
And you had the technique even back then. You said that you'd go door to door and you were actually putting the creepy inside the pools, huh?
That was our goal, was to get it into the pool because we knew if they saw the unit work, that 80% of them would buy.
That's awesome.
So, yeah, it was...
Write that down, folks. It works. Even 34 years ago.
They all like that sound.
No, whoever's cleaning the pool, they like to see
we were scared of.
You can clean the
as
pool,
little
not
kids.
It was funny. We used to call that the baby's heartbeat.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I think it used to freak me out when I was little. You swim under the water, you hear the
Yep.
No. Getting close. Well, thank you so much. Rodney, can you share with us?
Sure. Rodney McCall, the IoT product manager for Pentair. I've been with Pentair for 16 years. Just in case some of your listeners may not know what IoT is, it's a fairly new term, so it might be worth explaining.
Yeah.
Internet of Things products encompass products that are connected to the internet and exchange data with the internet and often share that data with the customers via their smartphone or laptop or smart tablet, whatever they happen to be connected with.
And you say you were explaining this a little bit more earlier. They're different in a way too, that they're sending data to the cloud, which is kind of a little bit different than some other automation you might see.
Yeah, so I think I could bunch products that we're seeing new technology today into three groups. Connected products, which are basically connected to the internet, not exchanging a lot of data. And then Internet of Things are more exchanging that data. And then you get into smart products, which are, they're almost making decisions for the customer. And so I think that's where we're really trying to head with our products, make them smart.
Very cool. Thanks for sharing that with us. And maybe you could just share with us a little bit about how you got, working for Pentair and how you got your start in the pool business.
I love the water, and I started off as a lifeguard, at 15 years old, and just loved being around swimming pools, and then started working for a pool store growing up, and then in college cleaned swimming pools. After college, sold commercial chemicals, sodium hypochlorite bleach to commercial accounts all across North Carolina, and then did some commercial equipment in pools. Did a small stint with Coca-Cola for about 6 years, and that was my only job out of the swimming pool business, pretty much. And then worked for a vinyl liner manufacturer back in the swimming pool business, and then a job with Stay-Rite came open 16 years ago, and jumped on board with Stay-Rite, and then Stay-Rite was purchased by Pentair, and the rest is history.
Oh, that's incredible. You aren't lying. You've really done just about everything you can do in the pool business. And did you say that your father was a builder?
No. Interesting thing, my father, I found some old memorabilia that my mom had been keeping, and it was some stuff from his days in the Army, and he was actually on ships treating water.
Oh, no
so
way.
It's in my blood.
It's in your blood for sure. That's super cool.
That's really cool.
So maybe you guys can discuss the history of IoT, which you were just talking about, the Internet of Things, how it's transformed Pentair and what we have today.
Sure. So at Pentair, we have a process to look for opportunities for growth and product innovation, and that's called the rapid growth process. The first part of that is defining a strategy or vision for growth, and then you research where you want to grow your business based on trends, environmental factors, or advances in technology. You generate what we call growth concepts that are aligned to that strategy. And then we do ideation sessions, which are basically structured brainstorming sessions. And IntelliConnect was born out of one of those ideation sessions we held in August of 2016. We were looking at growth opportunities with new technology and smart connected devices. And the problem that we identified to solve was that most pool owners aren't really comfortable operating their pool, and going out to the equipment pad was just not convenient. So our idea was to build an inexpensive device that would improve the pool owner experience and remove the mystery out of pool operation, and place the control and monitoring of that pool in the customer's fingertips on their smartphone, something that they were used to using and something they're familiar with. Bring that control right to the smartphone. Other problem that IntelliConnect solves is the complexity of having a variable speed pump on the equipment pad. And the problem is this: to get maximum energy savings with a variable speed pump, you need to run the pump at lower speeds and run it longer. However, other things on the equipment pad which may require the pump to run at higher speeds, like a gas pool heater. So you didn't have automation. If you didn't have automation on your pool and you wanted to start running your heater, you just had to ramp up the pump to a new speed and keep it there if you were going to keep your pool heated. So the beautiful thing about automation and IntelliConnect is that it does that for the customer automatically. For instance, on the IntelliConnect setup page, you can set up a custom flow for the IntelliFlow for when the heater fires, or a custom flow for freeze protection, and a custom flow for when you're running your salt chlorine generator in boost mode. So not only is it making the equipment more efficient, it also ties all of the pieces of equipment on the equipment pad together for safer operation.
Right. Thank you. So, Pentair has a lot of different forms of automation in the field today, but we really wanted to focus in on the IntelliConnect specifically. Can you talk to us about why Pentair decided to make a more simple version of automation, and why there's such a high demand for it? And we were talking earlier too that in the very beginning we were hearing that some of the distribution places weren't selling too many of them. People weren't really comfortable with it just yet. And now it's taken off. It's like a trend, everybody's like installing these left and right. So maybe you could just share with us, all you can about that.
I think people don't demand a product that's not there. And I think it takes a little while for people to get used to something, especially even the installers to get familiar with the product. They get scared. If they don't understand a product, they're often afraid to talk about it to a customer. But when we went out and spoke with pool owners and interviewed people that were waiting to get their water tested in pool stores, and what we learned was that people are intimidated and confused about their pool. They don't know the pump from the filter, and they call they don't know what, you often say, all right, which, the pump's the one that makes noise. The filters doesn't make any noise.
Oh, we've heard the craziest thing. They're pointing at the chlorine floater and they're like, the filter's cracked. Or we're like, what?
Yeah. Or the skim.
Oh, that? Oh, that's just holding the chlorine tab. That's not your filter.
Basket.
Right.
Yeah.
It's called a filter.
Yeah.
Everything's a filter.
Yeah, everything.
Yeah.
I know that's your vacuum.
We had a guy that even worked for us. He used to call that. He would call us and be like, yeah, the filter's wrong. Something's wrong with the filter. Like, what's wrong with the filter? Oh, it's cracked. Or you'd be like, what? Like, no. That's not the filter. That's a skimmer basket.
That is a squirt gun. That's not a filter.
That should have been a sign. He shouldn't be working for us, I think.
Yeah. I mean, especially new pool owners, they have this investment in a swimming pool and they're afraid to touch it, right? Because they're afraid they're going to break something. So we wanted pool operation to be simplified, and that's what we set out to do with IntelliConnect. Pentair has been doing automation for a long time. ComPool was one of the first forms of pool automation. I think automation really took off when builders started building pool spa combos, because that was complicated. The problem that automation solved there was that, if a pooler had a pool spa combo, they'd get confused manually turning the valves to go from pool mode to spa mode, and they would drain their spas into their pools, making their pumps run dry, and they couldn't figure out, am I heating the pool or am I heating the spa? So the great thing about automation was, you had a button that said spa mode, and Mr. Jones, press spa mode when you want to go to spa mode, press pool mode when you want to go to pool mode, and that automation really simplified things. The Pentair automations like systems like the IntelliTouch and EasyTouch and our new system, IntelliCenter, are still the best solutions for those pool spa combos and pools with water features that require a valve. But for all the rest of those simple single body of water pools that don't have automation, IntelliConnect can really be a great solution for the pool owner that wants a simpler, more convenient way to operate their pool. The IntelliConnect takes out the complication of the pool equipment and, as I mentioned, puts it onto something which pool owners are familiar with operating, their phone. And pool owners, it takes that intimidation away from them.
And you've got roughly 5 million pools out there in the U.S. that are single bodies running off a time clock. And so when they need to control their pump, turn it on or off, or turn the light on or off, they've got to go back to the equipment pad to do that. A lot of people don't like to do that, This makes it much simpler for them, and they can control it with their phone. They love controlling everything with their phone. Makes it easy for them.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it took a little while for professionals to get behind it, because we're always trying to get behind. We always have to understand that when we put new things on, homeowners' pools, this is just another new thing that we have to explain to our team on how to use. And the cool thing from what we saw, the IntelliConnect was really easy to use, to turn on, turn off, all these different things. But that's always like a really difficult thing with the automation, is it's much more complicated than explaining it to the customers. We have to actually make sure that our team understands, how to use this thing, and they're not leaving it running all day long or something like that.
Yep.
So can you explain exactly what the IntelliConnect is and, what it's really designed to do?
Sure. I'll start kind of going through. If you're looking at an IntelliConnect has 2 high voltage relays that can be turned on and off with your phone. They can be placed in egg timer mode or placed on a schedule to run a single speed pump or a cleaner booster pump or lights or whatever you wish to turn on and off. So that's the two relays. When you place a piece of equipment on one of those relays, you then choose what logic that relay has from a list. For instance, you can say that the relay has a single speed filtration pump on it. Then the IntelliConnect logic makes sure that that relay is on and the pump is running before the heater fires or before the IntelliChlor produces chlorine. You can also put an LED light, LED color changing light on the other relay, and the customer can choose the color show that they wish to run, and the IntelliConnect clicks that relay the amount of times needed to turn on that color or color show. So it's kind of basic. It's what's in the box.
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of touch on the egg timer. Egg timer, somebody might not be familiar with that term. And really, it's just going to run, when you turn that egg timer on, it's going to run for a predetermined amount of time. You set the amount of time you want it to run for, it runs for that amount of time. It's really not a schedule. It's a one-time button push, and it's going to run for whatever you programmed it in to run for.
Right. And are you talking about that being on the actual IntelliConnect? You can set an egg timer from the IntelliConnect?
Egg timer, you can set a schedule or turn it on and off manually.
Right.
So there is like a screen that you can actually see everything as if you were in the IntelliFlow setting egg timer.
Yeah, not exactly on the IntelliConnect box itself. There is no screen on that, but from the app, you can do all that.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really cool.
And it also controls an IntelliFlow, our variable speed pump. So if you sell it and they have a single speed pump and they want to move up to variable speed, it'll control the IntelliFlow pump as well. And it controls IntelliChlor, and then you can put a heater on it as well.
Very cool.
One other thing I wanted to touch on, and that was the lights. Rodney was talking about the colored lights. Some people might not be familiar with how to switch the colors on our color lights. Typically, if they don't have automation, the light is hooked up to a wall switch. And if I want red, I've got to turn that switch on and off 9 times to get to red, or 10 times to get to blue, or what have you. So with IntelliConnect, it makes it a lot simpler. You basically page over to the color you want, hit select, turn the light on, and it does all the magic behind the scenes for you, and you get the color you're looking for.
That's worth it just for that.
Yeah.
It's like when they invented, they went from the phones that you had to, what are those?
Rotary dials.
Rotary dial. And then they went to just having the actual numbers on there. That's funny. So you had mentioned that the IntelliConnect makes sure that the pump is running. How does it know that the pump is running?
So both of the relays have current detection. So when the relay clicks to turn the pump on, we do another little safety check to make sure that the pump actually came on by checking to see if it is drawing at least 100 watts of power. So if the relay has a filter pump on it and is not drawing the minimum amount of power, then we don't allow the heater to turn on, nor do we allow the IntelliChlor to make chlorine. So, another little cool thing about that feature, the homeowner can see how many watts are being consumed by whatever is on that particular relay, which is great for pool service guys that may be wanting to upgrade their customer to an IntelliFlow variable speed pump. Since the relay tells the customer how many watts that single speed pump is consuming, and the information they need to explain to that customer how much they're spending per month is right there on the app. The customer gets to see that horse and a half pump is consuming 2,000 watts of electricity. So
we're familiar with that calculation, but for the listeners that may not be, can you walk us through that calculation?
Yeah, sure. The calculation to figure out how much energy is consumed by any, not just a pump, but any product, is kW, or kilowatts, times cost per kilowatt. And that will tell you how much it costs to run a device or a pump for 1 hour. So the cost per kilowatt they can get from the customer's electrical bill. It's right there. And, for my example, I'm going to use, say, 10 cents per kilowatt hour would be the cost of electricity. People understand, telling the customer how much it costs to run something for an hour doesn't really resonate with the consumer. So you want to try to talk to them in how much does it cost per month? And then they realize from that, that's what percentage of my electrical bill every month is the swimming pool pump in this case. So what you do is the formula is KW or kilowatts times cost per kilowatt hour times the run time per day times 30 for 30 days in a month. So let's take an example of a 1.5 horsepower pump. 1.5 horsepower pump runs at about 2,000 watts of electricity, or 2 kW. So 1 kW is 1,000 watts. So if it's 2,000 watts, that's 2 kW. And multiply that times the cost per kilowatt, and I'm going to keep the math simple here, and I'm going to say 10 cents per kilowatt hour is the price they pay. So 2 times 10 cents is 20 cents per hour. And keeping the math simple, let's say they run it 10 hours per day. So 20 cents times 10 hours per day, that's $2 per day to run their the 1.5 pump times 30 days in a month. That's $60 per month to run the pump. Then with variable speed, that can be cut down to around less than 500 watts. I think I see in the field, 1,500 RPM is where a lot of these guys are running the pump. That's probably around 500 watts. And that's also easy math, so I'll keep it simple. So 500 watts is 0.5 kW. So, it's half of 1,000 watts. So that's 0.5 kW times, keeping the math simple, 10 cents per kilowatt hour equals 5 cents per hour to run the variable speed pump. And then let's say we run it twice as long, or 20 hours per day. So it's 5 cents per hour times 20 hours equals $1 per day times 30 days in a month is $30 per month. And you've cut their electrical bill in half, and they're running their pump twice as long. So it is filtering the pool, adding sanitizer, and doing all the things a filtration system is supposed to do at half the cost.
Right. And I think the only variables in that is that the price is going to change in different cities, states, different things like that, and also peak times, peak hours. But those are really the only variables in that, right? I mean, you could very well look at a zip code and look at the electric bill and look at the cost per kilowatt or whatever, and you can start doing the math for yourself.
Yep.
But doesn't the Pentair calculator do some of that for you, where you can input all that stuff?
It absolutely does. It's a great tool for guys to use if they're on the job site and they don't want to do that math. They can go to our website and download use the calculator right from the website.
And I always liked, how you compare it to other things in the home, in terms of like sound, and it costs as much money to, power a light bulb or, different things like that. I always think that that's a much better way to explain that kind of stuff to a homeowner, because I think they understand that stuff better than maybe going over like kilowatts and all that stuff.
Right. They start to get a glazed look on their face when you start to talk about kilowatts. One of the visuals that we used a lot was light bulbs. And, you can't even buy a 100 watt light bulb anymore, but people understand 100 watts. Oh, 100 watt light bulb. So we used to say your 1.5 pump is like 20 100 watt light bulbs burning in your backyard every time you turn it on. So, but it doesn't have to be that way. Variable speed is here, and it's much more accepted now. And I think it's the way a lot of people are going. They realize that the true energy savings there.
I don't know about you guys, but I feel like I've heard more complaints on the noise than anything. Even if a single speed pump was running as brand new, it was always just like, do they make anything quieter? Because, the equipment, like my pool equipment is right by the master bedroom. Yeah. So single speed, especially the single speed I did have on there recently, screaming.
Yeah, I've been on job sites and guys are like, the purchaser is like, I would have bought this thing 10 years ago had I known it was going to be this quiet.
Right.
So yeah,
I find that a lot of homeowners don't really know what they're paying a month to run their pool pump. And what's nice about the calculator is you can actually, if they've got a single speed pump, you can do the math right on the calculator and then also do it for the variable speed. And you can see that comparison. And you can then email that right to the homeowner.
And the app actually uses zip codes too. So I think it pulls the kilowatts automatically, so you don't have to even know the kilowatt from the bill.
You're right.
So you can use a zip code. We use that quite a bit. We are trying to sell customers on pumps. So super convenient to have the app there, and you can really walk them through it as long as you know their zip code and what horsepower their pump is. You can show them right away.
But I think if we could have changed anything, we would have maybe followed up with customers that bought those pumps more often and asked them like, hey, like I really want to know like if your bill's changed. You know what I mean? Because really getting that feedback to know that you actually did program it correctly and there really is a change, I think the customer would get, there's a lot of benefits from that. They feel like that they can trust you and you really were trying to sell them something that was in their best interest. But knowing going into other backyards, it'd be like, yeah, we've done hundreds of these and, a lot of the feedback's been really good, but you can give like real feedback, like the last one we did, they saved, $80, on their electric bill or whatever it is, because they ran it at this, now they're running at this, and, water's clear and it's, just where it needs to be. But I think, it would have been really cool to really follow up with them to be like, have you seen a change? It's like, oh, well, it's still kind of the same, but it's also because I keep going out there and messing with it. It's like, okay, why are you messing with it? Stop turning it on.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And I think the nice thing about the IntelliConnect and the app is we're sharing that information directly with the customer. So they're going to get the before. They're going to see that their single speed pump's running at 2,000 watts of electricity. And then if they do upgrade to variable speed, we're also telling them how much electricity is being consumed by the variable speed pump. So now they can share that information with their neighbors and be really happy about the purchase that they made. And like you said, I mean, if you're not offering variable speed to your customers, you're doing them a disservice because it's super quiet and it's going to save them money.
Right. So what are some of the benefits when, going from a single speed pump on an IntelliConnect to a variable speed pump?
Well, we definitely talked about the energy savings. We talked about the noise, and a neat side benefit is when you take out your single speed pump, now you have an open relay. So you could use that relay for, a light or landscape lighting or whatever you want to turn, like I mentioned earlier, whatever you want to turn on and off.
Booster pump.
The IntelliFlow, we want the IntelliFlow wired directly to a breaker. It does not take up the relay, and we communicate to the IntelliFlow pump digitally via the RS-45 cable, which comes with every IntelliFlow. It also communicates digitally via RS-45 to the IntelliChlor or iChlor salt chlorine generator, so the customer can adjust the chlorine output. They can see what the salt level is in the pool, put the salt chlorine generator in boost mode, which forces the pump on for a certain period of time to clean the pool. We have similar logic, which checks to make sure that the IntelliFlow is running. Like I mentioned, the single speed pump, we check the relay and check the watts to make sure it's running before we turn on other things. We have a similar technology to make sure that the IntelliFlow is running before we signal the IntelliChlor to make chlorine. So on a regular system, a lot of times we tie in the IntelliChlor onto the filter pump relay, and you don't have to do that here. We are communicating directly. So we want the IntelliFlow and the IntelliChlor wired directly to the breaker.
Okay. So it sounds like you don't have to power the IntelliCore or the iChlor on the filter pump relay with the system, so it knows that the pump is running.
Yeah, correct. You don't have to use up a relay with IntelliChlor or iChlor. We want it wired directly to that breaker, so it's always powered. And the IntelliConnect tells it when it's okay to operate. It's got that smarts and a lot of that built-in logic, same logic we have built into our automation, is here in IntelliConnect.
Yeah, and you also have like heater control as well, right?
Yeah, IntelliConnect controls a heater or heat pump via what most people call the fireman switch. To wire it, the installer will clip the fireman switch wire and bring those wires to each side of the heater dry contact inside the IntelliConnect low voltage panel. The installer will then have to install a temp sensor, 10K ohm temp sensor, to make it work, since the IntelliConnect, just one note on this, when you install an IntelliConnect and you have a heater, no, the IntelliConnect does not ship with that temp sensor in the box, because we figured not everybody has a heater, and just adding the expense of putting a temp sensor in every box didn't make sense. So make sure if you have a heater, you bring along a temp sensor as well.
Right. And does it have freeze protection?
Yeah, we do have freeze protection. We do it a little differently with IntelliConnect than we do it with our automation system. We pull data from the internet because it is a connected device. We pull data from AccuWeather according to the zip code that is located in. So in the setup screen, the installer has the ability to choose the temperature at which the unit starts freeze protection and the temperature that stops freeze protection. And you can also set up a custom speed for the IntelliFlow pump if you have one on the system to run during freeze protection.
Nice.
Awesome. So, when we buy the IntelliConnect and go to open it, what comes in the box and what should we maybe be aware of? What kind of paperwork that needs to be given the customer, things like that.
So it's pretty simple. In the box, there's an instruction manual. There is the IntelliConnect. If you put it on a system with an IntelliFlow that was already installed, maybe it was standalone mode and already installed, you will need that RS-485 cable that shipped with the IntelliFlow. So I know I've been in a lot of back rooms of builders, and they have boxes of those cables laying there. So now's the time to drag those back out. So if it's a job with a heater, of course you're going to need that temp sensor.
Right. And what about warranty paperwork?
All that is in there. There is warranty paperwork, but we have moved. We are trying to move our warranty registration to the internet. So it's just a lot easier to fill out that, and it's a lot quicker to do that on our website on Pentair, www.pentair.com. And
they would need like the serial number, correct?
That is correct, and that's right on the outside of the box. Don't throw the box away yet, and that's on that box.
Well, we always cut out the little white label and give it to them. We usually do that.
Yeah.
So that they always have that. But
along with the nice instruction manual in the box. And then there is online, everything's online. Our owner's manual for the IntelliConnect is online. There's some pairing guides and that kind of thing as well.
It's much easier to give them the serial number from the box and not have to find it on the pump.
Right. Yeah.
Don't try to tell a homeowner where to find it on the pump. It's hard to see on that little label.
Absolutely.
So, you mentioned the manual comes in it. Can we kind of go through that a little bit and what information is available for the pool professional when they're installing it?
Sure. And I brought here today a little Quickstart guide that was put together. It's a beautiful little Quickstart guide by our marketing department. And that should be available on distribution countertops and that kind of thing. It's also available on our website. That little Quickstart guide is very similar to the manual. IntelliConnect is monitoring and control for single bodies of water, meaning you can put it on a pool or a permanently installed spa, but not a pool spa combo since it doesn't control valves. And I think that's an important thing. You don't want to oversell this. There's a lot of simple pools out there that can use this product, and it does not control valves. So I think that's important for people to know. It is a wireless unit. It connects to the homeowner's router, so a good wireless signal in the backyard is important. So it's a good idea to go out there with your phone maybe, or ask the customer, can they go on the internet while they're in the backyard? Because the equipment's in the backyard, it requires a good internet connection. It will not control multiple IntelliFlow pumps. Like I said, it's for that simple pool. It will control one IntelliFlow pump. It can be powered 115 or 230, and it does not control a SuperFlow VS pump. That's another product. It just controls IntelliFlows, or it controls single-speed pumps.
Why is that?
So the RS-45 for the IntelliFlow is a really easy digital way to communicate, and IntelliFlow is our flagship pump. That's where we started with this product.
Okay.
News, maybe, who knows what comes next.
Okay, cool. Like that. So I think it's kind of cool too that maybe somebody does have a pool and spa, and maybe they don't care as much about the pool as the spa. And you could very well hook this up to just maybe turn the heater on for the spa, turn the light on for a spa. Maybe they don't care as much about, automating the swimming pool. Like that's kind of its, maybe they don't use it as much. They use the spa quite a bit. So you could very well do that, right? And hook it up to the blower, use a relay for the blower.
The issue you're going to have is you still have to go back to the equipment pad to turn the valves.
Yeah, it'd have to be a single with its own set of equipment, but you can do it that way if the spa had its own filter pump and filtration system.
Yeah, you bring up a kind of a neat point about the product. And I mentioned earlier that we are looking for a filtration pump to run before we turn on a heater. So if you had two, you always want to, it is searching, if you just hook up a heater, it's searching for a filtration pump to be running somewhere, whether that be an IntelliFlow or a single speed pump, before allowing those other things to turn on. Yeah, if they're used to turning valves already and they just want to control, water temp, then sure, it could be a...
Yeah, scratch that. Nobody touch valves. Let the actuators do it.
But you're right, though. There is systems that have a separate equipment set for the spa, and if it had its own pump, own filter, without having to turn a valve to, for flow, then you could set it up that way.
Yeah, just thinking, because somebody might have pool and a spa with a spillover, and it's nothing more than that, but they don't really care so much about some of the other features, and maybe they don't need an IntelliCenter or an IntelliTouch or something like that,
or they don't have the budget for it.
I guess that's
they can definitely move to an Easy Touch or Easy Touch Lite.
Easy Touch Lite. That's right. So maybe you could share with us a little bit more on the pre-installation for the listeners.
I think preparation is really can make your installation a lot smoother. So before the installer goes to a customer's house to do the install, I recommend that they fill out a pre-install checklist, and we put that together. It's on our website. It's a great tool for you to use before you go out and install an IntelliConnect. And oftentimes the customer is not going to be home when you're doing your installation. And this guide gets you all the information that you're going to need from that customer ahead of time. Get the homeowner's name, their mobile phone number, their address, their wireless router name, because sometimes you go into a backyard and you might pick up 20 different routers in the same area. You want to know that you're connecting to the right one. So
that's super awesome. Like a little reminder, so it could be in the email, so that when you get out there, you're not having to, knock on the door. They're at work, all that good stuff. That's a really good reminder.
That would have been super helpful when we were doing that.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Check that checklist out.
The wireless router password is also important. And this is where people, kind of get messed up. So make sure you're getting the wireless router password. Router passwords are case sensitive. So make sure that, if it's a capital and that kind of thing, make sure you're getting all that. And the homeowner's email.
I'm curious, real quick. Does it matter if you're picking like 2G, 5G or anything like that? Is there one that's more recommended?
Yeah,
because now, quite a few are popping up.
Absolutely.
Great question.
It is. So when you open up the IntelliConnect, the pairing page, it's only going to show you the 2.4 gigahertz networks, and it only operates on the 2.4 gigahertz band.
Oh, nice.
So usually routers are dual band, and they're 2.4 and 5. And the 2.4 is where the range is. The 5 gigahertz is where you get speed, but it doesn't have the range, the distance that the 2.4 gig range has. So that's where you're going to see most products in your house are 2.4. And we're not watching movies with the IntelliConnect. We're not passing that much data. So 2.4 is just fine.
Not yet.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
So remember when people started watching TVs on refrigerators? Now you can watch movies out by your pool.
Out by your pool, right. So you want the homeowner's email, and then you want the password that the homeowner would like to use when they sign into the app. So when they sign in, they're going to use their email, and they're going to use a password that they have given you. So you can do all that setup if you have that information. And then the install location. So you want to make sure that they're happy with where you're installing the product. Then I recommend that the installer go to distribution. Once they have all this information from the customer, they pick up the IntelliConnect, take it home, put a pigtail on it. You can put a 110 cord, it'll run on 110, and then they can connect it in their home for practice. They can just connect it to their home Wi-Fi and get used to the process. With the information that we just talked about, they could set up the IntelliConnect account on the Pentair Link to app, using that information before they even go out to the job. The installer could even do the over-the-air update. There are 2 updates that are required. They could do the over-the-air update for the wireless and the host firmware before they go to the job site while they're sitting on the couch in their living room or den. And it's really, the wireless update allows the IntelliConnect to connect to routers that have special characters. And we'll talk about that just a second. If you have special characters in the router name or the router password, you'll need to do this over-the-air update before it's connected to the homeowner's Wi-Fi. And those special characters that the IntelliConnect does not like, if it hasn't gotten that update yet, are the pound sign, the percent sign, the and sign, the plus sign, and the forward slash sign. But once the Wi-Fi update is complete, accepts all of those special characters, that's why I say if you fill out the Quickstart guide, then you'll know ahead of time before you go out to the job site if there are special characters in that router name or the router password. Then, if they do all that up front, all they have to do is connect the unit to the homeowner's wireless router when they get to the job site.
They're actually connecting to the network, not to the router.
Yep.
So I'm curious if, I want to practice at home and I set this up at home before go and do it at a customer's house. Should I is there a way to factory reset it? I'm assuming you probably will want to do some kind of reset on it. Would just hate for people to kind of do that at their house and then they don't reset it if that's what you need to do and take it somewhere and it's having all kinds of issues because it's trying to...
You don't really have to do a factory reset. If you set up the customer's account using this information, you're building their account, the account that they are going to use to control the IntelliConnect. When they put it on their Wi-Fi, when an installer's sitting at home and they put it on their Wi-Fi, then when they go to the job site, they're going to have to put it on the customer's Wi-Fi then,
So it's almost like a phone or a smart device. Like if you were going to visit a friend and you hop on their Wi-Fi.
Just needs to reconnect.
So you can you could take that.
Now, if you did take it home and you played with it and you used your credentials, you can delete those credentials out of IntelliConnect, reuse that device for another homeowner.
Right. And we're not saying that you should take the IntelliConnect all over the place. It's not a phone or a smart device.
Right.
So I'm going to a party this weekend. I'm going to take the IntelliConnect to the party. Make sure we do this right.
Be the hit of the party.
Yeah.
I think you mentioned the install location earlier. I think that's really important and kind of overlooked quite a bit because you're drilling into homeowner's wall or if you're not looking at the line of sight from their backyard, it's really important to make sure that that's not visible. A lot of people will not really enjoy looking at that box, learning from experience. So if you got to make sure that it's where they want it so you don't mess up their backyard ambiance or whatever. But,
yeah.
And, sometimes those wires look really bad. They don't like those, or customers can be pretty picky with that stuff, at least for sure in Scottsdale. But just being aware of where they want it installed, because you are drilling into their property. So, hey, Pool Chasers, we really enjoyed our first 2 stops on the live tour. So thank you to everybody that came out. We really appreciate the support. We have 3 more events coming up in the next few weeks, which are in Houston, Atlantic City, and Orlando. Our Houston show is on January 23rd, and we'll be interviewing Matt Golke and his team from Golke Pools. Our Atlantic City show is on January 28th, and we will be interviewing the PHTA president, Sabina Hickman. And our Orlando show will be on February 14th, and we will be interviewing Lucas Congdon of Lucas Lagoons from the hit TV show Insane Pools. We're very excited for these great interviews, so please come hang out with us and other pool professionals. We met some of our best friends in the industry at networking events just like this, and it definitely changed our business and lives forever. So don't miss out on these incredible opportunities. Tickets are free, so sign up now by going to poolchasers.com/events or by clicking the link in the write-up below. So what do you think the most difficult part of installing the IntelliConnect is?
It's really a simple product. I would say the toughest thing is connecting it to the homeowner's router. Sometimes it's not so much the connecting part or the pairing it with the homeowner router. It's just making sure you have the right password. If there's a teenager at home during the install, it's best that you get the password from the teenager. Because they have given that password out to all their friends when they come over, or use it to connect their tablet and their computer, their phone, their game console. Guaranteed they know the password by heart.
Right.
So I think that's probably just getting the right password is really important.
So let's talk about pairing the IntelliConnect to the wireless router and what's really in that process.
Sure. So going back to the password, since it's the crucial part, my recommendation is when they get to the job, I recommend the installer take their phone and test that they have the right password and check that they have a good connection by going into the backyard, open up settings on their phone, go to Wi-Fi, and connect their phone to the homeowner's 2.4 gigahertz network using the password that the homeowner gave them. Or that they got from the teenager. Then the installer should go to airplane mode, which will turn off the phone's cellular signal, so you're just using the Wi-Fi signal. Make sure the Wi-Fi is on, and open up some app on their phone that requires a wireless connection, whatever that happens to be. There's music apps and that kind of thing. That way they learn 2 things very quickly. They learn they got the right password and that they have a wireless signal in the backyard. Once they have verified that, then they can power up the IntelliConnect. And once the installer powers up the IntelliConnect, the link LED on the IntelliConnect will blink green for 10 minutes. And that 10 minutes is their opportunity to do the pairing or the connecting it to the homeowner's Wi-Fi. In that 10 minutes, the IntelliConnect is in a mode that we call access point mode. The installer should then take their phone, go to settings, and then Wi-Fi, just like what they did when they were connecting to the homeowner's router. Go to settings and then Wi-Fi and find the IntelliConnect this time in the list of available networks. It's similar to when you go to a hotel and you need to get on their network, you go to settings, you go to Wi-Fi, you search for whatever property you're on, their network, and you put in their password. That's your phone, you're telling the password, you're telling your phone what the password is, and that's what you're doing with IntelliConnect. You log in when the IntelliConnect is in access point mode. You log into the IntelliConnect and you tell the IntelliConnect the SSID, the router that you want it to connect to, and then tell it the password. And then the IntelliConnect then connects to that homeowner's router.
So you have to find IntelliConnect under the Wi-Fi options, right? Where it says where you're going to Wi-Fi, you have to find IntelliConnect, which then opens up a secondary window, and you enter the ID and password of the homeowner's router.
You're right. So, and I kind of skipped a step there. So once it's in access point mode, you find the IntelliConnect in the list of available networks, like you said, and then next you open the phone's web browser, and that might be Safari if it's an iPhone, and then you type in 192.168.123.1 into the address bar at the top of the screen, on Safari, and press enter. That will take you to the IntelliConnect's pairing page. That's where you're going to select the homeowner's 2.4 gigahertz signal on their router from the drop-down list, and then enter that homeowner's router password into the security key field. If you've entered the password correctly, the IntelliConnect link light will stop blinking and it will go solid green. Now, sometimes the pairing page will tell you that you might have entered the incorrect password, but just make sure you have entered the correct password and wait, and the IntelliConnect LED will glow solid green, usually in 2 to 3 minutes. I mean, that's it for the connection process. Once connecting is complete, you want to make sure you remember to disconnect your phone from the IntelliConnect, because you are connected to your phone during that process, and your phone can't get to the internet if you're still connected to the IntelliConnect. All during that pairing process, also, you want to stand near the IntelliConnect, because you're really communicating with the IntelliConnect at that time until you give that handshake to for the IntelliConnect to connect to that homeowner's router.
Right. So, what about situations where the equipment pad is really far away from the house, or what are the options available for pool professionals if you're having a hard time getting it to connect? I
have found that a lot of homeowners already have a wireless extender. In larger houses, you're going to see wireless extenders all over the house, and that's really the answer to solve that distance issue. My recommendation is put a wireless extender into the job price when you price out that job, just in case you need one, and have one on your truck so there are no surprises or hidden costs for you or the homeowner. And I recommend buying one of those extenders, take it home, get used to connecting it at your house before you go out to the job site.
They definitely can be a pain. So if you don't know how to operate an extender, it's much different. So you're right.
And I think when you're doing the pairing process, that it's important to use your phone to see what the signal strength is. There are apps that are out there for both Android and iOS that'll actually show you signal strength, or it'll show you a ping value, telling you how fast information travels back and forth from the router back to the device you're using.
Yep.
If you look at that and move around the area that you're going to install IntelliConnect on, you can get a visualization of how good the signal strength is where you're actually going to end up installing IntelliConnect. You really want to get a good line of sight between IntelliConnect and the homeowner's router.
Yeah, that's a good point. We use those apps every time, and I think you talked about a little bit in the pre-installation time, but we would always go out to where we were going to install it before we would even get into the selling process, because if you can't get signal on your phone right there, then you already know you're going to need some type of Wi-Fi extender or something. And it's, speaking again from experience, it's a pain in the butt if you sell somebody automation and then you go out there and it can't connect, and then you got to go through the whole process of probably giving them a router for a extender for free because you already quoted everything, and then it's a real pain in the butt if you don't take the proper steps to make sure it's actually connectable.
if you take, like I mentioned earlier, if you take the IntelliConnect home the day before the install, put a pigtail on it, then you can leave that cord on it when you go out to the job site and actually connect it before you mount it on the wall. Go ahead and connect it and move it around and make sure you got a good signal. And, ask the homeowner, hey, is this an acceptable location? If you have to kind of put it above a steel wall, as Brian mentioned, to make sure you've got that, that the aesthetics are good with the customer, and then the connection's good.
It may sound like overkill, but it's very important because it's a real pain in the butt when you're out there and it doesn't work. So everything we're talking about is really prepping you so you're not standing out there in 110 to 120 degree weather in Arizona and trying to figure this out.
Yeah, I think it's important, to get familiar with the product when you're not on the job site, so you don't have Mr. Jones staring over your, shoulder and wondering what you're doing. So I think just a little prep, like you said, is important before you go out to the job.
I think it's important to look at your guys' frequently asked questions that people have asked you before, because you're probably, if you do run into any issues, more than likely you're going to run into one of those. So if you can kind of prep yourself, so if a homeowner's like, hey, what's going on? Is there a problem? You could maybe say, it could be this, or this, it's technology, things happen. I'm professional. I'm going to try to make my way through some of these and, we'll get this thing up and running soon. Because there's been a lot of times been left on a job site for many, many hours. Every pool's different. Every area is different. Some are easier than others, but the more you can prepare yourself before you get out there, the better.
Yeah, that's for sure.
You made a point earlier about a bunch of things being connected to the Wi-Fi too. Sometimes it does that in order and it'll kick the IntelliConnects off if there's too many people on at one time, it'll go out. So I remember I used to get those calls sometimes where it wasn't working. And I'd be like, how many people are home? Oh, all 6 kids, and they're all using their stuff. Yeah, it's not going to work when you're, or it may be harder for it to work when there's 20 devices connected at the same time and everybody's streaming Netflix.
Or have you paid your bill?
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah,
it's disconnected.
All right, so I guess the next step would then be kind of downloading the app and setting up the account. Is that fairly easy?
Yeah, it's quite intuitive because it's app based, and we just, if you're used to using apps, it's very intuitive to go through the process. And we have an app guide on www.pentair.com that the installers can download, and the basics of that guide, I'll kind of go through the steps if you want to kind of walk through it.
For sure.
The app itself, the name of it is Pentair Link 2.0, and you go to the App Store or the Google Play Store and search Pentair Link 2.0 and download the app. Just remember to make sure your phone is disconnected from the IntelliConnect. If you've just gone through the pairing process, make sure you connect back to the internet and get off of the IntelliConnect before you download the app, or you're not going to... It won't work. So then you click sign up as a new user on that front page, and the app will ask for the identifier number for the IntelliConnect. When you open up the front door of the IntelliConnect, that number is on the front control panel, and it starts with a PIF. And so that's the identifier number for the IntelliConnect. And that number is PIF. It starts off PIF 0133, and then there's several other numbers. Make sure you don't make the mistake of putting O instead of 0, because it's not the letter O, it is a 0. So PIF 0133. This sign-up page is also where the homeowner can choose their monitoring dealer.
What's a monitoring dealer?
So on the sign-up page, when you enter the zip code of a location where the IntelliConnect is installed, a list will populate the page of all the Pentair dealers that are on our dealer locator. When one of those dealers is chosen as the monitoring dealer, that dealer is able to see exactly what the customer sees in the app from the dealer app. So for troubleshooting purposes, the dealer can see the pump speed, salt level, water temp, check to see if any errors have populated any of those screens, that kind of stuff. Once you finish placing the customer information in the sign-up page, it will ask you to log back in with the homeowner's email and address and password, and then you'll perform the 2 over-the-air updates. The first one is for the Wi-Fi, and the second one is for the host firmware. These updates take about 5 minutes to do both updates. The second update, that host firmware update, is what allows control of the heater and the color lighting. So the IntelliConnects that initially went into the field didn't have firmware that controlled the heater and the color lighting, so you have to do that update in the field. Just like, a lot of times you buy a TV set and it has to go through that update process right as soon as you connect it. The next step, on the main dashboard, there is a little blue bar that reads relay. And if you have equipment connected to those relays, you just click the blue bar. It'll say set device, and a drop down will appear with all the choices of the equipment that you can place on that particular relay. This drop down is going to include a Pentair color light, Hayward color light, Jandy color light, or just light if you have a white incandescent light. There's a choice for filter pump if you have a single speed pump on that relay, booster pump for a cleaner booster pump no freeze protection if you have a booster pump. And a lot of people during freeze times a year, they don't have their booster pump connected, and you get enough water flow through the booster pump so it doesn't freeze. So if they don't want their booster pump to have freeze protection or come on with freeze, you can choose booster pump no freeze protection. And then there is a choice for other non-flow dependent device and other flow dependent device. A flow dependent device could be, for instance, UV, or something that requires the filtration pump to be running before it turns on. So after you make your choice there, you'll be asked to choose if it is a 120 or 240 volt load on that relay, so that the IntelliConnect can do that wattage calculation when that relay turns on. If the relay has a booster pump or a flow dependent device on it, and you have an IntelliFlow as a filtration pump, then you'll need to choose the custom speed at which you wish the IntelliFlow to run at when the booster pump turns on. Then if you want to set up a schedule, you press the Manage button at the bottom of that relay, press the timer schedule to set up the relay on a schedule, and then you can set it up also as an egg timer in that screen. I think the egg timer is a neat feature for a light. So you don't have to remember, you turn your light on and maybe set it up an egg timer for it to turn off in 4 hours or something like that. So you don't have to remember you don't wake up on Saturday morning and your lights in your pool are still on.
Is it, I know it's not a schedule, but does it remember some of those egg timers?
It does. As soon as you set up an egg timer, it's going to, next time you choose egg timer, it's going to go to that whatever you set it at.
Okay.
So that first time when you set it up as a 4-hour egg timer, there's a little clock that you can press at the top of the relay, and it sets off a 4-hour egg timer, again. And you can go back in and change it if you want.
Right.
So if you have an IntelliFlow on the system, you can go to the IntelliFlow page, choose from speeds 1 through 4, and enter a schedule for each speed, or set up the speed as an egg timer. I think it's a good idea to have, you can set up 1 through 3 with schedules, but maybe leave speed 4 or for an egg timer in case the customer wants to run the pump to clean up the pool after a storm. And they can just go to the app, press speed 4, and the variable speed pump IntelliFlow will come on for 4 hours or whatever you have that egg timer set up for.
Yeah, kind of run like the quick clean option.
Yeah, you can use quick clean as well. And I think if the IntelliConnect is going on a system that already had an IntelliFlow installed and the filter schedules are already in the pump, when they plug in the RS-45 from the IntelliFlow to the IntelliConnect, that information gets automatically transferred over. So let's say you go out to a job, there's already an IntelliFlow there. There's already pump schedules there. When you connect the IntelliConnect, those pump schedules, that's one less thing you have to do, in other words.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
If you are to change the schedules in the app and somebody goes back to the IntelliFlow, will those be changed as well within the IntelliFlow?
That's a good question. Whatever the last change is wins. So if I make a change in the app, it moves to the pump. If I'm a service guy and I don't have the app, I can go to the pump and change the schedule and maybe make the schedule longer or change the speed on the pump, and then that information gets moved up to the app. Another neat thing about this is...
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah. Our automation systems put the drive in display not active mode, and IntelliConnect just kind of lets the drive run on its own. We check in with it very often. So when you get to a job site and you can walk right up to the pump and press quick clean mode on the pump itself without having to put the system into service mode. If you, let's say you have quick clean mode and then you have speed 4 set up as an egg timer as well, if the homeowner doesn't have their phone with them, but they want they walk out to their pool and they don't have their phone, they could press speed 4 on the pump and it'll run the egg timer on speed 4. So we try to make it, with the service person in mind, to make it easy for those guys.
I'm sorry if you already said this, but how come you do that with speed 4? There isn't a quick clean in the app that you could just push that, since everyone's already used to hitting quick clean?
We don't have one in the app that says quick clean. That's why I say just set up one of the speeds as an egg timer, and you can see in the app that this is your egg timer, and basically tell the customer, hey, if you want to run your pump, just press speed 4 and it'll run at X RPM for this amount of time. Is there a reason why that quick clean isn't there? Because I'm just saying this from like the service professional's point of view. We've done our best to train customers and our team on hitting quick clean. It might be one of the 3 things that we ask them to do when it comes to that pump. And if it changes, especially for the homeowner, to do something else, so it would be really nice if the quick clean was actually on the app, because they're already trained to. So Greg, if we do that, are you going to charge us for that? I mean, because I think it's a great idea. I like the idea. I think I will.
I think the answer is yes.
No, I just think that I think it would really help. Yeah. So coming soon, the new quick clean in the app. Well, I'm going to do it. Just put like a little Pool Chaser sticker underneath it. Yeah, be a collaboration. We'll see. We'll see about that. We'll have to see about that. I will add a safety tip here. We're talking about quick clean and operating the pump. If a service person is going to clean the pump basket or filter or is going to do any kind of work on the system, it is mandatory that they turn the pump off at the breaker. So there's no way that the pump can be turned back on. That it's not just a tip for IntelliConnect. Anytime you're working on a system, just cut the power off at the breaker. I think that's really. I just thought I would share a safety tip.
You would think that would be common sense, but it's not for a lot of people. That's definitely the way to protect yourself, for sure.
Yeah. If you haven't been electrocuted,
you'll learn real quick.
We've been zapped so bad, like you get stuck.
Those time clocks?
Stuck to the time clock. We got zapped bad, like in the very beginning, like our first 6 months, year in, but hand was wet on the Intermatic and just turned it. I think I was turning it back on. It was vacuuming, turned it back on, and it just through the whole jolt went through my whole body and just like stuck to it.
I think everybody's.
But it's like you don't. After something like that, you make sure real quick you're shutting everything off. Might cut some wires and re-splice them afterwards just to really make sure.
Because those time clocks are nasty. So many of them are rusted out. The little plastic cover that is supposed to
cover.
Is not there. And so they're dangerous to go in and flip back on and off again for the average homeowner.
They made them a little better now because they're like
black and thicker, but the older ones are those little thin plastic, and they just brittle, break off, and then all the wires are exposed.
Yeah.
So
That's a huge
if your hands are wet
for the homeowner right there,
trouble.
is that doing it from the phone.
Right.
Like not having to go back there. And I think that's a lot of people's fears. Like, man, I'm kind of afraid to touch this or touch the heater or touch the pump or touch the time clock. You can do all that remotely and not have to worry about any of it.
Right. I'm barefooted. I'm walking over the equipment pad, and I'm going to stick my fingers in some electrical time clock. Doesn't sound like a good idea.
Hey, I have another idea you guys can add to this too. This will really help. I know people aren't really going back there as much, but we've actually heard quite a few homeowners wish that there was actually a light attached to the automation panels because it's super dark back there. And it would be nice if it was like a sensor or something that knew you were by the equipment and it would just like illuminate the area.
You're thinking maybe two. This is two ideas now. But I think it's...
But I think it's
right,
cool. We're coming together to tell, our experiences out there. And I think a light would be sweet, especially if you're just first starting off as a pool service company. You're probably going to be back there when it's dark.
Absolutely. And our best ideas come from our customers. And, here in the field. And I mean, I think that's how we learn is being in the field and hearing guys like you guys that have great ideas like this. And then we incorporate them, and hopefully we don't get charged too much by Greg for his ideas.
I think that's what we did when we had our pool service company, is we tried our best to listen to what they had to say, because they were the ones actually in the trenches. They were the ones brushing the pools and adding the chems and making all the trips. So we remember once we actually listened to every little thing that they said and tried to implement as many of those ideas as possible, that we were all much better off. And even doing the plant tour yesterday, it was so cool, all the attention to detail and listening to the people actually on the floor wrenching on all the pumps and spray painting the sand filters and all the things that go into making the products that you guys make. It's pretty cool that there's so many little things that they've added to make their day better.
Yeah. I guess you guys went to the pump line and you notice that we are water testing and electrical testing every pump. We were watching the video last night. That was the last video we watched last night, where it dumped upside down, like it got filled and then dumped upside down. Yeah.
Dude, that whole process is so insane.
Yeah.
I want to go back. Can we go back? It was like Disneyland. I would have a season pass.
So what about if a heater is connected?
So if there is a heater, they will need to install that temperature probe that we talked about earlier, which is not included in the box, and then connect the fireman switch for the heater in the low voltage compartment. When they go to the heater page in the app to adjust the temperature, they can just increase the temperature, decrease the temperature, turn the heater on and off. We even have an egg timer for the heater. So that's another nice little thing to have. They don't have to, let's say they've got a party this weekend, set a egg timer for the heater to run for the next 5 days, and they don't have to remember to turn it off. One
That's
note
pretty
on
good to save money, because I think a lot of people forget to turn their heat off.
They forget to do it one time, right? And then at the end of the month, when they get their gas bill, that's when they remember, oh, the heater's still on.
Right.
Yeah. So I thought
$500 later.
Right. It's a nice thing to have a little egg timer. You don't have to remember it. Just like our automation systems, though, the heater, even though you're setting an egg timer, the heater still only fires when the pump is running. So in other words, placing the heater on an egg timer does not force the pump to run for the next 5 days. It's only going to turn on and off as the schedule, when a filtration schedule comes up. Or it also turns on when you go out to the pump. If you press egg timer, or in the app, you could set up an egg timer to heat your pool for the next 10 hours. Nice. So from the main dashboard in the IntelliConnect, there is a setup page. And I think that's kind of one of the final things is the setup page is where you can set up the freeze protection parameters, the temperature to start freeze, the stop freeze, and a custom flow for the IntelliFlow. There's also a heater custom speed, The IntelliChlor, when you go to boost mode, you can set up a custom speed that the pump will run. And during that boost mode, the pump is forced on for that period of time. So what I thought is, if you want to go to boost mode for your salt chlorine generator, you're probably going to want to, kind of shock your pool and run it for that full period of time. So when you go to boost mode, you are forcing the pump on for that full boost time, and then that's settable up to like 96 hours.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. The nice thing about that is if you have a chlorinator in standalone mode, not hooked up to automation, and you put it into boost mode, if you're running your filter for 4-6 hours a day, boost mode is only going to produce chlorine for those 4 or 6 hours a day. When the pump shuts off, IntelliChlor shuts off, won't be producing chlorine. With IntelliConnect, it actually overrides that and forces the pump on, forces IntelliChlor to produce chlorine for that full amount of time.
Oh, wow. That's good.
Yeah, very nice feature.
Seems like there's a lot of things that are making the equipment smarter, so that, because obviously just like when you guys were talking about the heater, it knows that the pump needs to be on in order to have the heater on. So it's nice that it's getting smarter so that it's not allowing you to just turn the heater on if, the pump's not running. Because I think there might be a lot of new homeowners that might not know that they'll just try to turn the heater on. It's like, why isn't this working? It's like, well, there's got to be water passing through this thing. This thing doesn't have a built-in pump where it's just like, sucking in water. It just doesn't work that way.
But I think homeowners they just don't know, right? If they've never had a pool before, they're going to walk over to the heater and turn up the thermostat. And why I do that with my thermostat in my house? Why is not my pool, not doing that? So we tried to do a lot of the thinking for the homeowner with IntelliConnect. Really, just make pool ownership simple and make it so they can't break things.
Very cool.
I will say that with IntelliConnect and new automation that we're producing going forward with the over-the-air updates, that's really fantastic. The classes that we teach, I always ask, because I end up doing automation. I ask the class, how many of you guys do firmware updates for EasyTouch and IntelliTouch? I might be lucky to get one individual raise their hand. And they've done it maybe once or twice.
It's because it's a real pain in the butt.
It's a real pain in the butt. You're right.
To take a laptop out to the property, and
exactly.
You can't do it from a phone or tablet. So you're taking a whole laptop out there, connecting to the Wi-Fi, going through that. It's a real pain.
It's a real pain.
And you can't do that through USB?
You couldn't back then for those older updates. Now that's what he's saying is the new automations coming out is now over the air updates.
Automatic. So you have the latest features. You have the latest firmware. Always.
And I'm curious, how long do those updates take? Does it have any effect on the pool? Like if an update's happening, is the pool not going to be able to function while that update is happening?
So we made it as easy as possible. So when we have an update available, when the customer opens up their app, they can press a button and accept the update. The update takes about 3 minutes to happen, and the pool operation is not affected during that update at all. The pump still runs. If it was doing something, it's going to continue to do that during the update. One thing about an over-the-air update, you want power, constant power during the update. And so if you accept an update, don't accept an update during a thunderstorm, when there's a chance that the power is going to go out. Sometimes just that passing data back and forth, it might take more than 3 minutes, 5 minutes. Just be patient, let the update happen, and it'll tell you when the update is over. Just don't turn the power off to the IntelliConnect during the update.
Right.
Brian, you bring up a good point about over-the-air updates. The functionality, we're constantly improving this product, looking for opportunities to put a quick clean button in the app. And so sometimes those things require over-the-air updates. So we're the nice thing is it's easy to do. And we're really, you buy a product and it's constantly improving. And that's the new technology. That's a world we're living in.
Right.
I think it's cool with this product because when you were first, like you said, when you first released it, it didn't have the capability of doing the color lights or the heater right away. So when you guys made that available, it automatically, or if you click the accept button, then you are capable of taking on that technology, which is cool, instead of having to go back out to all those properties that you installed it and do the update with your laptop. Can we talk about your other app or not yet?
We do have a new app on the way, and it's the existing app that we're using right now. It was our starter app. It works fine. It has all the the functionality that we need, and the new app is going to be a lot prettier. Probably works a little faster, and just like I mentioned with the over-the-air updates, we're constantly improving. Another neat thing about this app, Pentair is not just swimming pool equipment. Pentair is water softener equipment, sump pumps. We have a lot of business in the homeowner's home. And this app is going to incorporate a lot of those products. So it'll be one source for your water, one place to go for all the things water in your house, whether that be water filtration, moving the water out of your basement so your basement doesn't flood. We're putting that all in one place for convenience for the customer. And I think it'll open up a lot of people who own swimming pools to the other opportunities that they have in their home to take care of their home better. So that's one of the things we're doing with that app. And Greg, I have to admit, unfortunately, there's already a quick clean button in the new app. You mentioned it, and it's in there already. So you're not going to be able to charge us for that.
I'm going to be able to cash out on that one.
Yeah. So we're very, very excited about the new app. It'll be something that the customers will be delighted with. We're going to do a smooth transition from the Pentair Link 2.0 over to the Pentair Home App.
Well, the reason I bring it up is because in prepping for this, I talked with several of our friends that are out in the field installing these, and that was pretty much the biggest complaint was the homeowners complain about using that Link 2.0 app. They think it's too hard or too difficult to find some of the stuff. So that's the reason I wanted to kind of mention it, because that was one of the things they mentioned was it would be nicer if it was a little bit easier to control. So it's cool that you guys are taking that into account, and I'm assuming the new app will be easier.
Yeah, and more intuitive.
Can you edit things? Maybe there's things that you don't have in your home that you could just take off so you don't see it. Because I think a lot of times with applications, I don't think they're as intuitive because they have so much stuff on it that I don't need. It's like there's, 5 scrolls on one page, but I only needed that one place right there. It's like as time goes on, I might, tack on another part, but just a bunch of stuff that I don't need to look at.
Sure. So there is some customization on the dashboard itself. So the main dashboard, when you open the app, it goes to the main dashboard. If there are things that you just don't want to see, you can take those off the main dashboard. You can move the buttons on the main dashboard to places where maybe it's want to always know the temperature of a pool. So you can move that to the top. So there is some customization available.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
So you can actually prioritize what you see when you open the dashboard up.
Right.
Yeah, that's super cool.
So why don't we move on just a little bit? What's the best way to explain the IntelliConnect to a homeowner?
Tyler, we live in an age where lots of stuff is controlled from your phone. I think talking about how IntelliConnect simplifies pool ownership with that built-in logic that we've talked about, so it prevents them from damaging their equipment. It gives that pool owner the convenience of control through their phone, something that they're familiar using. It gives them the peace of mind knowing that the pump is running when they're out of town. The control of if I want to use my heater when I get home from my trip, just heat up the pool while you're standing in the airport. I think, adding that convenience, also
turning it on when you're at the office, want to come home and get into it after dinner.
Right. I think, the convenience is a big piece. Also, without it, they are not truly maximizing the energy efficiency available from a variable speed pump. If they have a heater or things that require more flow to operate. So I think the energy efficiency, the convenience, and it's kind of cool, to pick, go to your phone and your neighbors are over at a party and you bring your phone out and you set the color light to party mode. And I think there's a coolness factor. And I think a lot of people are looking for that. The other thing, I think a good target for the product is homeowners who've just bought a house with a swimming pool because they don't understand the pool. And they walk out there and they've got that old time clock and it's like, oh, that's how I control the pool. I think it's moving them up for a really inexpensive price to something that gives them the convenience and control.
Well, if they set you up that easy, that's a slam dunk.
Yeah.
I mean, if a homeowner walks out and says, that's how I control it, that's an easy sale for sure.
Well, because they really start the conversation through email or however they're, telling you they just bought a pool and they kind of want pool service, but they also want a pool school. Usually that just indicates that they've never had a pool before, they're not familiar with this equipment set, whatever it may be. But you can get there and tell them that we can simplify this by just putting this, one thing here, and you download the app and you can see everything you need to see within the app, and everything out here is on us if you're taking on service or anything like that. As far as dumping pump baskets and doing filter cleans and all that kind of stuff.
I think in a lot of cases, the pool professional is maybe too nervous to ask.
Oh, definitely.
For sure.
A lot of customers would jump at that automation if they just knew about it, but they don't know about it.
Yeah.
And we're not telling them about it enough.
Mm-hmm.
We're not giving them the opportunity to make the decision.
But I think it's the enthusiasm and being excited when you're discussing it with them. They should, when you're telling them, it's like, dude, I have a solution for that. You need to get this IntelliConnect because it's going to make things much easier and it's perfect for your pool because you just have one pump and filter. This was actually made for your pool.
Yeah.
And it's going to simplify everything. The way that you understand the pool, you can put on quick clean, turn your lights on, all that stuff can just be done from your phone. Much more convenient than running over here and you are kind of having to rethink. You're having to look at your notes, people going out there with their folder full of notes on, what valve to turn and what I gotta hit this first and then this. And then, their chicken scratches all over the filter and all over the heater and all that other stuff. But it's like, you could take that all away. I would buy it.
Well, I think you make a good point with them not knowing. We talk about it quite a bit, is that if your customers don't know what you offer, then you're missing out on a lot of opportunities.
Really are.
So, if you collect their emails, which you should be doing to do billing by now, but if you're not, if you have the customer emails, we would a couple times a year send out an email about when heater season comes. Hey, did you know we install heaters? Do you want a heater? Write some verbiage that explains that part and that you offer that service because maybe they don't know. And this is another way for automation. If you come up with something cool with some infographics that say, are you going out to your pool and turning your time clock on? Did you know you don't have to? And kind of explain the option for IntelliConnect. So things like that, or if you're educating your customers, you're going to get a lot more business. But you're right, they do jump at that opportunity quite a bit.
And do a quick video. Do a quick 1 minute video showing you what the IntelliConnect looks like, what the app looks like, and you just lounging by the pool and you're able to turn on all these features from the app. They know what's going on right there. They're like, I like that much better than, it's like, you can get with this or you can get with that. That's you over there in sandals and you don't know if there's a snake that's going to pop out. There's, spider webs. That's really what it looks like back there. It's gnarly. Tripping over pool toys. Who knows what's back there?
And even if you get just the sale on IntelliConnect, it opens up the door for so much more.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You've got variable speed. You've got the chlorinator. You've got colored lighting.
Well, a lot of pool professionals are definitely missing out on a lot of money in their own backyards. A lot of times we look for new opportunities or new clients, but if you do your maintenance checkups every 6 months, or you figure out a way to get in their backyard with someone that knows what they're doing, there's all kinds of options, variable speeds, and new filters, different options, secondary sanitations, things like that. You could offer them, and you're missing out on a lot of money in your own backyards.
But this is one of many things that, you create an email campaign with all the emails that you have, and you send it out to that, and you figure out who you've installed for that. And maybe they don't have an IntelliFlow. You're setting up these campaigns and you know that they have this, they're going to go into another category for an email list, so that you send them a very specific email. Maybe it's 20 people that, have the IntelliConnect, but they don't have the IntelliFlow and they don't have all these other things. And you can kind of pinpoint, you can create videos and content that go just directly to them for that specific deal.
That's a good point, because we knew what all of our customers had, because we would take pictures of everything. So
we knew which customers were opening which emails, all those different things. So, and it's not that difficult. You can go on MailChimp, import all your email contacts and put their first and last name and mess with it, play with it. It's pretty crazy how much it could actually benefit your company if you're, using those tools correctly.
And I mentioned earlier about during the setup, the customer setup, when you're setting up a customer and you put in the zip code, and then you choose yourself as the installer, as the monitoring dealer, you're creating a tie with that customer. And so if they call you and they say, well, my chlorinator doesn't seem to be working, you can go right into the dealer side of the app and remotely see what might be the problem before you go out to the job. And so I think that could be valuable for a lot of guys to just know before you go. Right?
It's also a way to, I think, sell it to the customers that, hey, I'm also monitoring your equipment when we're not there. That helps, I think, as well, so that they can see, you're actually paying attention to my pool 24/7, even when you're not here once a week.
Yep.
So it's a good option too.
So where can people get trained on the IntelliConnect, and what does Pentair offer to help?
So as far as training for Pentair, we offer this year alone 16 different university-style training seminars. And what that means is the individual, when they register for the university, they actually get to pick their own courses. So we lay out a course schedule for that particular university. When they go in to register for that scheduled event, they get to pick the classes that they want to learn more about. So we don't force them into learning something that maybe they don't deal with on a daily basis. A lot of people love to do the heater class because it's a teardown class. A lot of people like to go to the automation, but they might not want to do the pool cleaner class. They don't have to. They can concentrate on the courses that they deal with on a daily basis. We also offer regional type classes, and those classes are more focused on subjects that the service manager in that territory and the salesperson feel are the most important subjects for their customers. So those are usually a day class or 2-day class with one trainer or possibly two trainers. The bigger universities is the whole training team. So we'll have 6 trainers there. We'll also employ some of the service managers in the territory, and some of the sales guys will actually do some of the training as well on the apps that we offer that make selling the product easier.
I was going to say, you guys are at most of the pool shows. So if people were to visit the Pentair booth at one of these shows and they might have a basic question on any one of the things we talked about, I'm sure there's more than enough people that could help answer some other questions.
Most definitely. In fact, at the last few international shows in our booth, we've got a little section up at the top of the booth where we actually put on classes. So during the show, we're actually doing training classes as well.
Is that what happens up there?
That's what
I always snuck up there to get a photo.
Yeah, that's the overshot photo.
The best spot in town to get the photo of the show. I'm just kidding. I knew what happens up there.
Now, we also have our service managers that will do individualized training. So if you're going out to a job site and you've got automation being installed and you've never done it, service manager can meet you at the site and help walk you through the installation and programming of that.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. That's how we learned when Jason Hall was our guy in Arizona, and he was out there for 6 hours with us installing Easy Touch something.
Yeah,
it was the first time we learned it.
He spends the time up front, and that way, when you guys go do another job, you might have a question or two, but you're very familiar with the product, so it's not going to take as much time.
Right. Yeah,
but he's a really good teacher too, because he didn't do too much. He was trying to have you do the lifting and wiring. I mean, he's there to coach you through it, but he's a very good teacher because he's trying to get you to the point where you can do it, by yourself.
Yeah, all of the service managers are going to do it pretty much the same way, where they're going to have you do the work. Because if you're just sitting back and watching, you really don't remember it. You don't grasp
especially when you're dealing
it.
with all that high voltage and low voltage stuff. You have to do it yourself. Right?
Yeah.
Remembering where to wire things up without actually doing it is pretty hard.
Yeah.
Nothing like hands-on.
Right.
So we at Pentair, we really believe in training our customers about our products and, on proper install and maintenance and use.
Very good. So we're just about ready to wrap this episode up. Can you guys each, give the listeners and us as well, maybe one suggestion, one book, one podcast that you would recommend to the listeners?
Sure. For me, the book was Raising Positive Kids in a Negative World.
Nice.
When my first child was born, to me, it was so magnificent, but yet so daunting because I knew that I had a big job in front of me, and I wanted to make sure that they didn't make a lot of the same mistakes that I made. And that book really, I think, helped prepare me for teaching and passing down knowledge to my kids that they could use in their own lives.
Oh, that's really good. So it's kind of a book that's just prepping you to kind of have maybe some conversations with your kids and just, that you're up against having a busy work, lifestyle that maybe might not be very normal, but it's kind of a helping guide because there's not really anything out there. I mean, especially we've been entrepreneurs for the last, 6 years and nothing really, that there's going to be sacrifices. We knew that, but once you really get in, it's like, oh man, there's some real sacrifices that you have to give up.
Yeah.
And that's cool that there might be some kind of help, a guide for that.
And then as a podcast, I like financial stuff. So I like the Money Guy Show.
Nice.
It's a podcast, two guys that talk about finances, anything you can think of. And again, it's something that I try to pass down to my kids because it's one thing does not get taught in schools, doesn't get taught at college. They enter the world, and one of the biggest things is finance. How do you...
That's what makes the world go, right?
Really?
Yeah. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Sure.
What about you?
So my turn, huh? I'm going to give a suggestion. I think that learning, I've just spent my life learning, and I think any opportunities that you have to read a book and learn something new. A lot of the books that I read are trade magazines or how-to or that kind of thing. I've just spent my life learning. I think once you think you know it all, then there'll come a time where after that you'll realize that you really just did not know much at all. So at Pentair, we offer a lot of training to up your game and be the best professional that you can be. And I think educating yourself is just raises you to a higher level. And I think taking advantage of all those opportunities is what you should do. And we offer those opportunities as a rule, I think, still for free. So I would just say, a life of learning.
Is that the name of a book?
Nope.
Oh, I like that. Should be the name of a book.
He said the Pentair manuals. Read
the Pentair manuals.
Yeah, read the owner's manuals. Don't let them blow up against the fence. You can always find the owner's manuals at the furthest
blow up against the fence.
The fence,
That's crazy.
That's a good one.
On the way here, I was watching the newest documentary of Bill Gates and a lot of the different things that he's doing, and it was insane. He has an assistant, and she's got she packs this duffel bag for him every trip he goes on, which is like every other day, and it's like 20 books, and he reads like 20 plus books like a week, and he discusses how that's where a lot of his like creativity and problem solving on all the different things that he's really good at is because he's really good at reading and retaining a lot of that information, so that when problems come up, he can pull things from his brain from something he read a long time ago, and it's not the answer, but a piece of the answer was in it, and then there was another piece somewhere else, and then it's just putting all these pieces together and I kind of get that. I don't read 20 books a week, but I do listen and read a lot, and I take pieces from all of that, and it's like, oh, well, you could use a little bit of that. That was a solution over there. There was a solution over here, and that's where you can maybe put that together. But reading and listening, it's insanely powerful. You
can get a lot of life experiences without actually experiencing them.
Really, seriously. And podcasts are huge for that. There's so many different, not just for what we do, but man, there's like murder mysteries. There's, if you don't want like the podcast style where it's talking about sports or pools or anything like that, like you can listen to like a series that is very well produced. Blackout. Insane, like Blackout. Yeah. Like you could close your eyes and you could really like kind of paint that picture of them running through the woods and all these different things that are happening. It's using your imagination is a good thing, I think, anyway.
All right, so we're going to wrap it up here. Can you share with us where we can find more information about the IntelliConnect?
Sure. I think the best place to go is www.pentair.com. Look up IntelliConnect. You can search IntelliConnect in there, and then on the IntelliConnect page, down towards the bottom, there is a resources, and you can see the owner's manual, the app guide. We have a wireless router pairing guide, and then this Quickstart guide that we talked about today. Everything is there. And as far as we talked a little bit about owner's manuals and the fact that they end up blowing against the fence. You can tell which way the wind's blowing because the owner's manual is laying against that fence. The owner's manual is good, and it's got a lot of the information that the guys are going to need to install this thing properly.
Right. Well, thank you, and thank you both for joining us today. We really appreciate your time, and definitely think it's going to be a really good episode for everybody. So thank you.
Oh, our pleasure.
Yeah, we appreciate
Thanks for
you
having us.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks a bunch.
Thanks for checking out this episode. If you want to find out more about our guest or the sponsors of the show, you can check them out on the links we have provided in the write-up below. We have also provided links to our social media platforms, so please follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Our tag is Pool Chasers. If the podcast has brought you any value, please do what you can to support us through our Patreon page by going to patreon.com/poolchasers. And don't forget to subscribe to the podcast to be updated each time a new episode is released. One last thing. If you're not yet in our Facebook group, join it today to be surrounded by like-minded individuals who are all trying to better the industry. Thank you all for the support. We appreciate your time and your ear.
See you out there, Pool Chasers.